are Americans refugee in America?
No?
Why are 7 lakh Kashmiri Hindus refugees in India? The idols from that temple were broken. एक तरफ आपने हिंदूज को वो दे दिया, लेकिन आप प्रोहिबिट कर रहे हो कि हिंदूज अब काशी ना मांगे, अब मथुरा ना मांगे.
How were these issues left off the table?
Prime Minister Modi has done possibly the same as Congress had done. Where the Congress is visibly anti-Hindu, Modi is not pro-Hindu. You tell me any other judgment that goes against Muslims, their religion.
कोई साधारण व्यक्ति जरूर बोलेगा पर CAA NRC.
Yo, what is up my friends? Welcome to another episode of Dostcast. मेरा नाम है विनम्र कसाना. अगर आप इस पॉडकास्ट को किसी ऑडियो प्लेटफॉर्म में सुन रहे हैं, मेक श्योर यू फॉलो द पॉडकास्ट. अगर आप यूट्यूब पे देख रहे हैं, खाना खाते हुए मेट्रो के अंदर कहीं और टेढ़ी गर्दन करके लैपटॉप पे देख रहे हैं कि वाह पॉडकास्ट आ गया, रात के 3 बज रहे हैं, जहां पे भी देख रहे हैं सब्सक्राइब बटन को दबाइए, बिकॉज हम एपिसोड निकालते हैं एवरी ट्यूसडे एंड फ्राइडे एट 12 PM इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड टाइम. आज के हमारे गेस्ट का नाम है आनंद रंगनाथन, जिनको कौन नहीं जानता. यूट्यूब पे प्रसिद्ध है, ट्विटर पे प्रसिद्ध है, हर जगह प्रसिद्ध है. JNU में एक प्रोफेसर है मॉलिक्यूलर साइंस के, और इस पर्टिकुलर पॉडकास्ट को भी हमने उनकी लेबोरेटरी में रिकॉर्ड करा. ठीक है, आसपास भिन्न भिन्न प्रकार के पदार्थ रखे हुए थे और हम वहां पे बातचीत कर रहे थे इतने सीरियस मुद्दों पे, पर्टिकुलरली उनकी किताब हिंदूज एंड हिंदू राष्ट्र. उनका यह मानना है कि हालांकि देश के अंदर सपोजिटली एक मेजोरिटेरियन हिंदू गवर्नमेंट आई है जो हिंदूज के हित की बात जरूर करती है, लेकिन एक्चुअली इस देश में हिंदूज सेकंड क्लास भी नहीं, 8th क्लास सिटीजन है. तो हम जानेंगे कैसे क्या है. उनमें से कुछ जो हम लोगों ने डिस्कशन करे वो है कि हिंदू रेफ्यूजीज का मैटर क्या है. ठीक है, वक्फ बोर्ड की कितने सारे मिसयूज होता है उनकी पावर का, और कैसे 70-80% लैंड दिल्ली के अंदर एक्चुअली कम्स अंडर वक्फ बोर्ड टेरिटरी. और पर्टिकुलरली एक बात ये कि आनंद रंगनाथन जी, जिन्होंने और किताबें भी लिखी हैं इस किताब के अलावा, कैसे ही बिलीव्स इन द पावर ऑफ फ्री स्पीच एंड व्हाई इज अ फ्री स्पीच एब्सोल्यूटिस्ट. वी आल्सो डिस्कस्ड कि साइंस की ओवररीचेस कहां खत्म होती हैं और रिलीजन की कहां शुरू होती हैं, अपनी अपनी आस्था क्या होती है. I don't think you've ever had the chance to witness a conversation like this with Anand Ranganathan. So raw, so real, in the flesh himself. The man everybody loves to hate, but everyone loves to respect. Also, because of his adherence to truth. The episode with Anand Ranganathan begins in 3, 2, 1.
Dr. Saluke, welcome to CID. I must say, this is the strangest setting I've had the privilege to podcast in.
We're going to imprison you. You're going to be by, the three of you are going to be by new students.
I was asking all your students about what is the most dangerous acid I can dip my hands in and enjoy myself. This is such a... What you do online and the kind of things that you talk about, the things you're passionate about, is so much in contradiction or rather like in opposition to the kind of life you live here as I'm assuming as a full-time scientist. How do you make a separation?
Actually, I don't make a separation. I think the qualities that I have learned through science, I try and utilize them in non-scientific disciplines and vice versa. There's so much I have learned from non-scientific disciplines, from the arts, from reading, literature, movies, music, everything. Absolutely brilliant stuff. So I try and, kind of bring that into science and the other way around.
Of course. Which is why, like, on point, your new book, Hindus and Hindu Rashtra, is out now, been out for a while. Yes. Amazing reviews. Yeah. मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि आप इस पर्टिकुलर मुद्दे पे इतने ऐसे आप एडमेंट कैसे होगा कि यार ये हमारे देश में हिंदू 8th क्लास सिटीजन है. एंड देखो, मैं ये भी प्रीफेस कर रहा हूँ, कहीं आपके और मेरे लोग मेरे को बोले कि यार ये बंदा आनंद रंगनाथन से बात कर रहा है बिना किसी फैक्ट्स के, बिना इंटेलेक्चुअल रिगर के, कैसे कर सकता है. सो आई वांट टू प्रीफेस दैट आई हैव रेड योर बुक. आई डू नॉट हैव रिसर्च पेपर्स ऑन मी दैट दैट आई कैन पोटेंशियली ट्राई एंड इवन ट्राई टू डिस्प्रूव योर क्लेम्स, बट आई विल से एनेक्डोटली तो ऐसा लगता है कि it is the other way around, right? It is the fact that other minorities in the country are persecuted, right? So two parts from here. Number one, what was the first inkling that led you to understand maybe there is a problem here? Was it an incident in your childhood, या फिर आपने कभी you witnessed something? And second, what I just said about how it's the other way around, as in like, minorities being persecuted and not Hindus.
Right. So that's a very interesting question, but childhood ka I don't think इससे कोई लेना देना है, other than the fact that I have been dropped on my head many times. So, but who hasn't?
Of course.
It marks me out for a glorious stint in politics, I suppose. No, but it's a very how shall I put it? It's a question that arises in everyone's mind because it's the natural question to ask. Because you are saying that the majority, a billion strong people who elect the governments they wish to, you are saying they are 8th class citizens. Ye kaise? Ye to galat hai. That's the normal thing. This was, I wasn't as vehemently opposing this thesis, but yeah, I mean, my line was possibly the same as well, that how is this possible? You're not just, and so the first inkling, as you asked, was this thing that I learned, that Hindu temples are under state control. And yet we call ourselves a secular country. Now, secular by definition, secularism means there's a total separation of church and state. You can't bring religion into your constitution, and vice versa as well. You can't, if you're holding, constitution as completely separate from, bringing religion in, then the other way is also true. I mean, you can't control religious places of worship. And then I saw, why is it that only Hindu temples are under state control? Why is it that you have tens of billions of dollars that rightfully belong to Hindus and their temples being leached off by governments cutting across party lines? In fact, BJP has more Hindu temples under control than Congress did. It has not reversed all those, I would say, illegal and draconian laws that allow state governments to control Hindu temples. So that was my first inkling. Why is it that, mosques are not under this kind of control? Why is it that the lands that belong to Hindu temples, the rents are set by the governments? And consequently, because of that, and I've mentioned in the book, you are getting only 1% of what you should be getting. T.R. Ramesh is an activist who's done most. In fact, my knowledge on this subject comes from activists like him and like J. Sai Deepak, who actually fought cases for Hindu temples through his Indic collective. And then I saw that, at T.R. Ramesh's data, that the land that is just one state government, Tamil Nadu state government, controls Hindu temples, you should be getting 60,000 crores. It is collecting less than 60 crores. Sorry, 6,000, less than 60 crores. So not even 1%. And then I imagine that 5,940 odd crores, if it is in the hands of Hindus, just imagine what they can do themselves. They don't have to worry about the governments doing things, setting up schools, institutions, hospitals, pathshalas, orphanages, all those things that places of worship and people who control it of other religions do, And by virtue of their doing so, they actually bring in a lot of non-Christians, non-Muslims into their fold, because obviously, you can call it, if it is illegal, inducement, coercion. But many times it is not, because a poor person is seeing that, look, I don't have enough resources to go to a hospital. I don't have enough resources or enough money to send my children to the schools. But here is a Christian school, Christian hospital. And it's just there. I'll send my kids to, Christian school. And slowly, from one thing to another, conversion happens. Legitimate, illegitimate, that's a separate issue. But the fact is that money is being spent by Christians or people who are in charge of places of worship on their institutions. And Hindus are deprived so. So, and why is this happening in a country where Hindus are the majority? Why is this happening in a country that proudly says we are secular, we will keep religion out of state? Here, constitutionally, legally, Hindus are being discriminated against. So that was the first inkling.
Sure.
Then I started researching and honestly, so I called them, derisively, you can say it, or, with intent, sarcastically, Hindus are second-class citizens. Then I learned more and become third-class citizens, fourth-class citizens. Now they're eighth-class citizens, because as I started reading more and more, and I got to know about what other activists were doing, and for example, Mr. Vishnu Jain, who's fighting 115 cases for the Hindu cause, including Kashi and Mathura. Then I got to know about, for example, the Places of Worship Act, and how Hindus are. So there is complete draconian discrimination. And this was hidden from the majority. I did not know most of it, So that's the genesis of the book.
Got it.
Yeah.
And as far as the origins of the act are concerned, we can discuss that in just a bit. But personally, I've read your blogs from 2012 as well. You seem to not really, you spoke about these issues, but you spoke about like general politics in the country, policies that are happening, maybe even spoke about like airplane purchases, all of that across the spectrum, right? But then as time goes on and I guess you discover these facts, you completely turn to, I guess, defending the cause of Hindus, right? And taking on that responsibility for yourself. Is that purely data driven, or is there like, I guess, like a personal religious attachment as well to make sure that people of your religion get their due?
Right. So first of all, I'm no one to defend any Hindu cause, leave alone any cause. I mean, I'm just, whatever comes to my mind, I say it. And I suppose that is one of the things that endeared is a very strong word, but the fact that I'm in your podcast is possibly the reason that you believe that हाँ यार ये जो बोलता है ये दिमाग में ये जो इसके दिल में आता है ये बोलता है, right? Can I say in Hindi?
हाँ, बिल्कुल. Hindi English mix.
Okay, excellent. So I'm not fighting any cause. Whatever I feel is the right thing to do and the right thing to say, I say it. And that is, when you asked me, where do you draw the line between science and non-science thing? This is where there is no line, because scientific training tells you that you have to worry about past precedents, you have to worry about data, you have to worry about objectivity, and all those things you bring into any lens that you use to see anything in life, be it scientific or non-scientific. So when I, for example, see anything that has happened in this country, immediately 3 or 4 things come to mind. Has this happened before? If this happened before, some may call it whataboutery, but I have written about this. Whataboutery is a legitimate tool to expose hypocrisy of people.
Sure.
You can be quiet about something, carry an agenda, you're quiet about it. Suddenly somebody else does the same thing and you start shouting. So you are legitimately, you have every legitimate right to say, look, you were quiet then. Why are you shouting now? The other person will say, aren't you saying whataboutery? But every intelligent person does whataboutery. It is the most intelligent thing to do, because otherwise, how do you expose hypocrisy? How do you expose people who were silent before but are shouting now? So those are the 3 or 4 things that come in. And the reason why you asked about this thing about Hindus, I don't particularly feel that I'm, just overly inclined towards this particular issue. I have talked about it. Possibly I've written a book, and I gave a speech. This is almost a transcript of the speech that I gave on this issue. I have spoken about a lot of issues. I have much more vehemently. I have spoken about things that I have been trolled and abused by people, you may say, from my side of the fence, the right wingers, you may call it. I'm called a Sanghi now. I wear that badge now. It doesn't bother me. It used to bother me earlier, why people pigeonhole you. But, people pigeonhole you out of their embarrassment because they are themselves pigeonholed. So the easiest way is for them to find out and, kind of attribute things to, it's easier for them to cushion their own bias, So that doesn't bother me now. But, for example, I was against demonetization. I wrote about 20,000 words, 5 articles on it. I was totally against repealing of farm laws. I called Modi anti-national. I have spoken a lot about a lot of things. This is just one of the things, because I think the discrimination is not in your face. It's very difficult to recognize it. For example, Places of Worship Act, 99% of Indians wouldn't know it. I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Waqf Act. I didn't even know what Waqf meant until I heard Vishnu Jain.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a sec, because I think I've heard the words Waqf board said a lot in news.
Right.
I've never had risen above my ignorance to figure out what it was.
Yes. So same here. Same with most people, because they don't. Now, you see, on its own, you can say everyone is entitled to worry about their own piece of land. Sure, absolutely. But then is there something called the Hindu equivalent of Waqf? Is there something called the Christian equivalent of Waqf? Even if you were to allow for that, even if you say, look, that's not discriminatory just because, Hindu Waqf doesn't exist, you can't say that the Muslim Waqf should not exist. I don't know the equivalent of Waqf for Hindus, but, you get the gist. The problem comes when it becomes draconian and starts to usurp land that, on their whims and fancies, you say it is now Waqf land. And what happens is, through the ages of this Act, the clauses are so draconian that in order to disprove that, look, Are bhai, this is not Waqf land. Why are you taking it? You have to run from pillar to post, and most times out of not,
So
you
what would
simply
be-
give up.
So what would be an example of this where like a Waqf board takes a land up?
Right. So, for example, there was a recent example in Tamil Nadu where a 1500-year-old temple was suddenly decided that it is on Waqf land. Now, you tell me, how can a 1500-year-old temple be on Islamic land when Islam is only 1300 years old?
Agreed. So who decided this? Like, does this supposed Waqf board
Yes,
gather
the board,
together and
yes.
say कि यार हमारा यहाँ पे like,
Absolutely.
how do you stake claim on that?
So the Waqf board stakes claim. Anybody can say they are in their rights to declare any land as Waqf. They can. And until a few years ago, you couldn't even go to the court. Now at least you can go to the court and fight. But you know what happens. You have 5 crore cases pending. Suddenly your land is adjudged to be on Waqf land. The commissioner, the collector, all those instruments of the state are used to kind of browbeat you into saying that, look, this is now. And Supreme Court ruling has said, once a Waqf, always a Waqf.
So for context,
Yes.
agar we're sitting on this
We are
campus right
sitting
now,
here.
right?
Yes, correct.
So if I were to say this is
Yes.
Waqf
Yes.
land,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Then the state machinery would work with me to prove it.
Yeah.
What are my safeguards against this?
So your only, for my safeguard, if this was my land and
Yeah.
you suddenly said, is to disprove you.
But it is incumbent upon me to disprove you.
Yes.
So I can just wake up from my sleep and announce that this is my land.
Absolutely. This is what has been happening. Waqf is the 3rd largest landholder in India. 3rd largest. 70% of Delhi is adjudged to be on Waqf land. First time I talked about this, I was in Times Now studio. And I said, pata lagao kahin ye Waqf land pe nahi hai, aur wo Waqf land pe nikla.
तो पर अब वो उस पे है.
And Antilla, Ambani's house, is on Waqf land. Delhi High Court is on Waqf land. CGO complex, Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium is on. Central Vista is on Waqf land.
तो वो तो out of courtesy नहीं कर रहे हैं उस पे claim. मतलब उसको मतलब one is claiming, the second is raising the structures there and building something, right?
So, you see, now, how soon before that becomes reality? You have to look at the way things develop in this country. And I've talked about this in my book. When Muslims left after partition, many of them left left India and they went to Pakistan. Their land was given to the Hindu refugees who had come from there. But in 1980s, Rajiv Gandhi gave all that property. That, by the way, when Hindus left Pakistan, their property was given to Muslims, right? And Muslims stayed on there. Out here, Rajiv Gandhi gave all that property to Waqf. Now, Waqf decides what rent to set on that. In 2014, just a month before the UPA was booted out, 123 properties that the government had staked claim on, Waqf property, were simply handed over to Waqf. Now,
Free of cost.
yes, these are prime properties in Delhi that were just worth thousands of crores, were handed to Waqf. The case lingered on. After 9 years, just 2 months ago or 1 month ago, this government has taken back that order.
Yeah.
Right? But this is just the beginning, because you have a huge battery of Waqf lawyers who will fight that case till whatever. Now, the question is not that anybody has a property dispute. I mean, they go on in our country for ages, they have. The question is discrimination. The question is not that a property rightfully belongs to a Hindu or a Muslim or a Sikh or a Christian. Why should anybody worry about it? The question is the recourse. If suddenly this property, the question that you asked, is adjudged to be a Waqf property, what do I do? And believe me, there is the Waqf Act 1995. There was supposed to be a new act to come in that would have acted for anybody who encroached on Waqf land. Now, that had already been tabled in the Rajya Sabha, or I think I've talked about it in the book, but the government changed, so that bill never became an act. But had that happened, the powers were so draconian, you could have simply raised structures if you thought that land is from here on Waqf land. So you call Yogi Adityanath as the bulldozer Baba. It was kindergarten stuff compared to what would have happened had that bill been enacted. This is rampant discrimination. This doesn't happen in Islamic countries. And you wonder, just because people should not accuse that, look, you're talking out of your hat and all that, that's the most descriptive chapter in my book, because I quote verbatim all the sections and clauses. Read those clauses and make your own opinion if those are discriminatory or not. So it's just on paper, everything.
What are the origins of this particular act? And for that regard, all other acts, like Temple Worship Act with you, then I think you also mentioned that Hindus also have a right to reclaim certain temples, right?
Yes, yeah.
Now that is a tricky, right? We enter a terrain where like, यहाँ पे हमारा temple है, यहाँ पे हमारा temple है, right? Where does one draw the line?
That question goes to the heart of what justice itself is. What is justice? Is justice something that a wrong has been done right now and you fight for it? If you call that justice, fair enough, but then that's your definition. Then don't say that an injustice that was done 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, I will no longer fight for it. But you know the truth, right? People fight for historical injustices all the time, right? In fact, the left trumps it, or calls it as one of the pillars for which you must seek justice. I mean, right now, what is Palestinian-Israeli problem all about?
It's land.
But historical. It's not something that has happened yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And why just stop there? You look at all the statues, for example, King Leopold. I gave the example of, in this book, a year ago. The left cheered when King Leopold's statue in Belgium was illegally brought down, because King Leopold was the butcher of Congo. He had perpetrated so much crime and barbarism in Congo, and he had just basically killed millions, and all that rubber trade and everything wrong that had happened in Republic of Congo was because of Belgians, basically colonizing it. Now the left says all those from Pizarro, who colonized Mexico, to Churchill, who's an imperialist, to the Confederacy generals in the Alabama or in the South of America, to Cecil Rhodes, who basically formed Rhodesia and who basically annexed and basically took away the land of South Africans and Zimbabwe and all those. Each one of those people have been coined as racists, as barbarians.
Sure.
Their statues have been illegally brought down.
Yeah.
Now they belonged to 19th century, 17th century, 16th century. Why do people still want to overturn the wrongs that they did? They want to correct those historical injustices. In fact, Mr. Sitaram Goel wrote 2 voluminous books called Hindu Temples, What Happened to Them, where he meticulously documented 1,800 such temples that have been demolished and mosques built over them. If you talk to J. Sai Deepak and Vikram Sampath, the number is as high as 40,000 temples, right? Now you tell me, if you want King Leopold, his injustice to be corrected, why wouldn't you at least give the Hindu a legitimate right to go to the court? There you are cheering when illegally the statue of King Leopold was brought down. Here you're not even allowing a Hindu to seek justice, to approach the court. How is that democracy, you tell me? That is what I ask. I'm not saying that all those 40,000 odd or 1,800 or whatever you may say, those temples that have been demolished, right? They must be given without, Hindus or Muslims or anybody else seeking a course of justice. Go to, for example, the Ayodhya judgment.
Sure.
Had that gone against the Hindus, it was 5-0 in favor of Hindus. Had that gone against it, that's something that Hindus would worry about. later on. But at least they approach the courts, right? In every other instance, the Places of Worship Act bars Hindus from approaching the court. Now, Ayodhya judgment was a bit dodgy, difficult, because there was no visual sight of the temple. It was always that the temple was demolished and the Babri Mosque was built over it. ASI came in and authoritatively determined that yes, there was a temple underneath it, a massive temple of Hindu origin. And then, not just ASI, when the land was given to the Hindus and they started building this Ram temple, which will now be finished in 4-5 months' time, when they excavated, they found out so many temple remnants. So yes, the temple had been demolished and Babri Mosque built over it, but you couldn't see the temple, right?
Sure.
There are places where you can see the temple because deliberately, to humiliate Hindus, it has been left part demolished and a mosque built over it. Kashi is an example. Mathura is an example. There the Hindus can see the temple. So the Places of Worship Act bars Hindus from even seeking justice, going to the court and saying, my lords, at least you deliberate, you tell us whether this thing belongs to us or not. Even that is not allowed. Now you tell me, how is that justice? How is that democracy?
It is not.
There we go.
I'm just worried कि जब हम ऐसी बातें करते हैं तो हम देश के अंदर कहीं ना कहीं जो लोग सुनेंगे आपकी बात वो बोलेंगे हम लीगल रिकोर्स दे रहे हैं. बहुत सारे लोग देखेंगे बोलेंगे यार ये तो अब अटैक करने का टाइम आ गया है, इस पे तो दंगे करेंगे इस बात पे.
नहीं यार देखो, I am absolutely not a man of violence. I believe in law resolutely, absolutely. And I am proud, and I've said this, I am saying this on your podcast again, because इससे मुझे बहुत मार पड़ी है जो मैं भी कहने वाला हूँ. बहुत पिटाई हुई है, मतलब इधर उधर घूसे मुक्के जो कह लो. और ये 5 साल से
verbal, right? Only verbal.
Thankfully. ट्विटर पे वर्बल ये वो काफ़ी, क्योंकि मैं ये 5 साल से कह रहा हूँ और मैं आज रिपीट कर रहा हूँ. इसलिए क्योंकि मैं आई एम नॉट ashamed of what I said. I am proud of what I said. I want Hindus to trust me when I say this, that I'm proud. Now, what did I say? I said if I was P.V. Narasimha Rao, and I'm verbatim I'm saying, I would have rebuilt Babri Masjid brick by brick till such time the Supreme Court adjudicated on this matter. This is what I said, right? Now, am I a bigot? मुझे क्या मतलब, ये कोई बिगेट की लैंग्वेज है?
नहीं.
आप तो कह रहे हो कि हिंदूज ये तो तोड़ दे, कह रहे हैं आपने यही कहा ना कि हिंदूज का मन करेगा कि ये तो तोड़ो और रिक्लेम करो. मैंने क्या कहा है कि बाबरी मस्जिद दोबारा बनाओ टिल सच टाइम. आज ये टिल सच टाइम वाला लोग हटा देते हैं, जो मेरे सखी मित्र हैं वो कहते हैं अच्छा ये साला बनाना चाहता है, मारो पीटो इसको. टिल सच टाइम द लॉ एंड द जजेस एडजुडिकेट ऑन द मैटर. नाउ व्हाई वुड आई से दिस if I didn't believe in the rule of law, right? Number 2, I am proud not only of saying this, I am proud of 1 billion Hindus because they left it to 5 judges to decide on the holiest of their shrines here. I ask you a question. If the holiest of a Muslim shrine, I won't name it because sar tan se juda ka wo hai, but if the holiest, मेरा ही नहीं तुम्हारा
Oh shit. I think I've made a mistake coming here.
I know. अब पछतावत क्या हो जब चिड़िया चुग गए खेत. अब आ गए हो तो कभी आओ हमारी.
मुहावरा ही बोलूंगा मैं भी जाके बस.
No, but if the holiest of, it's a legitimate question. If the holiest of Muslim shrines was desecrated, was broken down, okay, was vandalized, was demolished by Hindus and a temple built on it, don't you feel Muslims have a legitimate right to even go to the courts to ask for it to be given back to them?
Of course they do.
So why deny that to Hindus? Is that not, you asked me when you started this podcast, many of might feel कि अरे ये तो हिंदू मेजॉरिटी है, ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन क्या? ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है कि नहीं, आप ही बताओ, आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ.
ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है, बिल्कुल है.
और ये मेजॉरिटी अगेंस्ट है, क्या अगेंस्ट
तो
है?
फिर लोगों को इस बारे में पता क्यों नहीं है?
अब वही तो, यही तो पूरा खेल है. टू कोट अ फेमस हिंदी लाइन, बाबू कौन से बाबू, यही तो पूरा खेल है. कैन यू इमेजिन दिस इज हैपनिंग एंड वी आर कॉलिंग अवरसेल्व्स secular, we are proud of being secular. Hey, you are controlling places of worship legally, constitutionally. How is that secular? Secularism means एब्सोल्यूट डिमार्केशन बिटवीन द चर्च एंड स्टेट. तो नंबर 1 वो नहीं हुआ. नंबर 2, आपने ऐसे लॉज आप ले आए where you are blatantly discriminating against the Hindus. Hindus can't even leave alone, get their temple, can't even approach the courts.
ये इसलिए तो नहीं हुआ था. I'm just speculating क्योंकि
ये
हिंदू
वर्च्यू सिग्नलिंग में हुआ है कि यार हिंदू हमारे मुस्लिम भाइयों को बुरा ना लगे और हम भाई सेकुलर हैं.
या हमारी आइडेंटिटी बड़ी लूजली डिफाइंड थी जब ये सब चीजें बन रही थी उस टाइम पे, एंड द अदर फेथ्स हैड लाइक स्ट्रांगली डिफाइंड आइडेंटिटी सो दे कुड गेट द बेनिफिट्स.
That's possibly not true because people have seen since time immemorial. Okay, not time immemorial, but thousands of years.
Sure.
That Hindu temples have continuously been demolished. I'm not just talking of the Kashi Vishwanath, which is a prominent one. I'm not talking of Mathura, where incidentally, now, you see, as a man of science, I don't believe unless proper proof is given. Because that is just me. I'm not deriding people who are believers, right? I'm not deriding them of any faith. You want to believe in, whatever you want to believe in, good luck to you. I'm not a militant atheist. But nobody can stop me from being an atheist. That's all I'm saying. Now, if somebody believes that Jesus walked on water, good luck to him. If somebody believes that the prophet ascended to heaven on a winged horse, great. I mean, I'm not one to say, oh, no, how dare you, this, that. The fact of the matter is that people believe that was the place, Ayodhya was the place where Ram was born. It's their astha, right? Likewise, people believe that Krishna in Mathura, Krishna Janamsthan was the place where Lord Krishna was born. Now, I'm going to go through a yes and no with you. Permit.
Sure.
Right?
And make me look absolutely ridiculous.
No.
But I will do it for argument's sake. हाँ.
बिल्कुल नहीं. अब वो आस्था का सवाल है, yes or no, right?
जी.
अगर कोई बिलीव करता है कि इस्लाम में कि प्रॉफिट मोहम्मद पीस बी अपॉन हिम वेंट टू हेवन ऑन अ विंग्ड हॉर्स, वो आस्था का सवाल है. अगर कोई बिलीव करता है जीसस वाज बोर्न ऑफ इमैक्युलेट कंसेप्शन, वो आस्था का सवाल है. उसमें अगर आप कहो कि नहीं, हाउ इज इट पॉसिबल समबडी कैन बी बोर्न without, through immaculate conception, I mean, science just feels कि यार this is impossible. But majority of Christians do believe that, right? Likewise, that place is sacred for Hindus. They believe that Lord Krishna was born there. The idols from that temple were broken, were scattered on the steps of Begum Masjid in Agra by Aurangzeb, so that devotees or worshippers who went into that masjid could trod on those steps. Now I ask you, is that not humiliating Hindus?
It is.
Shouldn't Hindus have a legitimate right to at least approach the justices to get Kashi and Mathura back?
They should.
अब सारी चीज आप आंसर कर रहे हो तो मैं क्या करूँगा?
देखो, वो तो अब नेचुरल सी बात है. आपके पास आपने एक किताब लिखी है, मैं तो अपने माध्यम से अपने रूडिमेंट्री सवाल पूछ सकता हूँ आपसे.
आपने देखिए बहुत ये सब मुझे इन्फॉर्म. आई वॉज सिटिंग वेयर यू आर सिटिंग राइट नाउ 2 years ago. I didn't know this Place of Worship Act existed. In 2019, I'll tell you how I came to know about it. I had no idea. I came to know about this when the Supreme Court, in their Ayodhya judgment, ratified the Place of Worship Act. मतलब एक तरफ आप हिंदूज को कह रहे हो कि आप ये राम जन्मभूमि ले लो, लेकिन आप रैटिफाई कर रहे हो और कह रहे हो कि दिस इज टैंटामाउंट फॉर वर्शिप एक्ट वर्क्स फॉर इंडिया टू क्रिएट एंड प्रिजर्व कम्युनल हार्मनी, सेकुलरिज्म. ये वर्चुअल सिग्नलिंग कर दिया आपने कि एक तरफ आपने हिंदूज को वो दे दिया, लेकिन आप प्रोहिबिट कर रहे हो कि हिंदूज अब काशी ना मांगे, अब मथुरा ना मांगे.
Okay, so you give them one and you deny them the rest.
Correct. Now you can deny it after you have deliberated on it, like you could have denied Hindus a legitimate claim to Ram Janambhoomi. You worked on it for 100 odd years, 157 odd years, and you came to a judgment. I'm saying that judgment could have gone against the Hindus. Fair enough. And then there could be repeals, there could be whatever that may be, that using legal procedure. But at least you adjudicated on it. Here you are ratifying an act that prohibits you even talking about it. How is that possible? That was the first time I read about the Place of Worship Act. और immediately मुझे ये खटका कि नंबर 1, ये तो यार हो ही नहीं सकता डेमोक्रेसी में. the hallmark of a democracy is that you must be allowed to seek justice. You might be wrong, you might be right, you might be this, you might be that, but from the common man to the president of India, you are allowed to go to the courts. यहाँ पे आप वही बार कर रहे हो, ये मुझे सबसे पहले खटका 2019 November, almost approaching 5 years now, when I read the Ayodhya judgment. Then I read from one thing to the other, and then I read about Hari Jain ji and Vishnu Jain, and then I got to know about Kashi, Mathura. All these things that you say आपको पता नहीं था. I was in the same boat, you know, absolutely the same.
तो उससे ये सवाल आता है कि बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट 2014 में पावर में आई, राइट? आप हाँ कर रहे हो, मतलब आप एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे
समझ गया मैं, ऑफ कोर्स, बिकॉज दैट्स अ लेजिटिमेट क्वेश्चन,
राइट? कि हम सोचते हैं कि एक हिंदू एजेंडा लेके वो लोग आए, और बहुत ज़्यादा हिंदू सनातन धर्म अब उसको बोलते हैं, उस टाइम पे हिंदू बोलते थे. एक इंडिक रेनेसांस हो रहा है पूरे देश के अंदर, जहाँ पे आइडेंटिटी रिडिफाइन हो रही है. बहुत सारे ऐसे थिंक टैंक्स खुल रहे हैं, राइट? एवरीवनस प्रोक्लेमिंग देयर राइट टू बी अ हिंदू, गेटिंग कंफर्टेबल इन देयर स्किन, व्हिच वाज previously loosely defined, right? When we were growing up, I remember हमारी civics की किताबों में लिखा होता था unity in diversity.
Yes.
That's all we would know, right? And now Hindus are sort of like making their mark. पर मैं फिर भी ये सोचता हूँ,
that's a question that we will come
ठीक है, lovely. पर फिर भी मैं ये बात सोचता हूँ, for a government that made promises about fighting for the Hindu cause, how were these issues left off the table, right? अगर आप एक कलर के बेस पे स्लोगनरिंग कर रहे हो और सब चीज़ें कर रहे हो, तो ये तो मेन मुद्दे हैं.
तो इसमें अब मैं पूरा वो नहीं बोलूँगा. अच्छा, एक तो मैं और एक एडवाइस दे दूँ लोगों को, जो इट विल बी मिनिमम आवर लॉन्ग पॉडकास्ट.
श्योर.
इसके वो जो 2-2 मिनट के लोग बना के आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट जो डालते हो ना, आई एम लुकिंग स्ट्रेट, यार मत करना यार, तो इसकी पिटाई करनी है करो, मेरी मत करो, मेरी बहुत होती है. तो वो आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट जो 1 मिनट क्लिप्स ना, अब मत निकालना. ये देश जैसे वो है ना, ये देश चुनौतियों से नहीं किसी ये यहाँ पे एप्लीकेबल है. ठीक है. अब हिंदूज क्या करें? आपने मुझसे ऑलरेडी पूछा कि आनंद ये मत कहो, ये तो हिंदू सड़क पे आ जाएंगे. बेसिकली व्हाट यू मेंट वाज एनार्की एज अ टूल, यू नो, एंड आई सेड आई एब्सोल्युटली डोंट वांट इट. आई एम टोटली अगेंस्ट इट, राइट? If you're totally against it, what is the recourse for a Hindu? Recourse is you choose a government that promises to work for the things that you want to be done, right? Legally. If you don't want to come onto the streets, if you don't want street veto, the only possible and the best possible solution, only possible thing is that you act legally and you choose a government that promises to deliver that to you.
You elect a lawmaker to make a law.
You elect a lawmaker to do it. और क्या विकल्प है यार? आप तो पार्लियामेंट में नहीं जा रहे ना, आप तो डेलिब्रेट नहीं कर रहे. You're not, basically doing the things that the parliamentarians are supposed to do. So you choose the parliamentarian. वो किया कि नहीं किया? एक बार नहीं किया, 2 बार किया. 2014 में किया, 2019 में किया.
हो सकता है दोबारा भी कर दें अब. हाँ, हो
सकता है दोबारा भी करें. चांसेस आर दोबारा करेंगे. और उसके बाद जब योगी आएगा तो 2 बार नहीं 3 बार भी करेंगे.
अच्छा, बात नहीं, ऐसा है क्या?
मुझे तो लग रहा है पूरा. अच्छा. The fact of the matter is, a Hindu does it. And you find out, I've just given you 8 reasons in that book. There are so many other reasons, so many others. None of those reasons have been acted upon by this government. What is the conclusion that you draw? The conclusion that you draw is that this government, why is it waiting for the Supreme Court or any other court to abrogate the Places of Worship Act? I say it is draconian. Many in the BJP feel it is draconian. And still they don't abrogate it. तो ये कावर्डलीनेस है. मैं तो खुल के कह रहा हूँ. आपको कहे कि अच्छा संघी क्रिटिसाइज कर रहा है. यार देखो, जो सच है वो सच है, जो झूठ है वो झूठ है. यू वॉन्ट me to conform to your biases, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen, because I'm a no one, and I genuinely believe I'm a no one, and because of that I get this power to say whatever I want to say. So Prime Minister Modi has done possibly the same as Congress had done, where the difference is, where the Congress is visibly anti-Hindu, Modi is not pro-Hindu. So there is a status quo that has been maintained. मतलब कुछ एक्ट्स जो मैंने बताए थे जो कांग्रेस लाने वाली थी, कम्युनल वायलेंस बिल लाने वाली थी.
What was that?
So कम्युनल वायलेंस बिल में जहां पे भी कम्युनल राइट्स होती, the person who would always be held guilty would be the majority, i.e. Hindu.
What are you saying?
Exactly. आंखें खुली कि नहीं खुली अभी? बाहर आ गई ना आंखें.
ये डिफॉल्ट
है. आने वाला था. This was default. Even in Kashmir Valley, where you have 98% Muslims, if there was a communal riot, the perpetrator would be adjudged as the majority, i.e. Hindu.
बट वहां पे तो 98% मुस्लिम है.
Exactly.
तो फिर वहां मेजोरिटी तो मुस्लिम हुई.
नहीं वो नहीं ना, because the said constitutionally the majority in our
In the country, not the
in
state.
the country,
Okay.
yes. I mean everywhere, Hindus are the majority.
That just gives you no legal recourse
Now,
as a member
does that
of this.
not defy logic? You tell me. अब ये आपको आज तक नहीं पता था, ये मुझे 3 साल पहले नहीं पता था. और ये बताओ मुझे कब पता चला? When the architect of this draconian demonic bill was asked कि ये क्या कर रहे हो आप यार? What are you doing this? It defies common sense. He said, well, it redresses the balance where Muslims have been traditionally discriminated against. These are his words. I've quoted him in the book. He was in Sonia Gandhi's advisory council, NAC. वो बीजेपी ने इतना प्रोटेस्ट किया इस पे बिकॉज इवन सेक्सुअल ऑफेंसेस पे मेजॉरिटी वुड हैव बीन हेल्ड रिस्पॉन्सिबल यार. अरुण जेटली वाज द वन. देयर इज नो वे दिस बिल कैन कम एंड सो दिस वाज जंक्ड. दिस वाज अबाउट टू कम. That's the expression. I want the camera to. That was my expression. I said, ये हो क्या रहा है इस देश में भाई?
और आप तो साइंटिफिक मेथड यूज करते हो, किसी और ने साइंटिफिक मेथड भी नहीं यूज करा इन चीज़ों को देखने के लिए. When you were sort of doing this research, did you not find any glaring loopholes in your own logic as well? Not for this bill. I mean, the entire arguments that are present in the book.
Well, okay, so I'll be very honest about it. There could be, I mean, yeah, you know, Bertrand Russell himself said, I won't die for my beliefs, I could be wrong. So, I mean, it pays to be doubting everything. I mean, that's the first premise every scientist goes on. But you try and through the process of science, through the process of empirical analysis and objectivity, you try and reduce that doubt as much as possible. That's what scientists do, you know. Except there are some axioms where it is beyond law. I mean, that is the absolute truth, you know. So, barring those few, half a dozen axioms in science that exist, everything else, you are reducing the element of doubt. Now, here, I'm not saying that this is completely without loopholes, but I have tried to, these are the 8 things where only Hindus are being discriminated against. Otherwise, I've said, not a single soul in India is there who has never been discriminated against. Hindus have been, Muslims have been, Christians, everyone has been discriminated against. Yeah, you know, we've born with it. But here, as I said, I gave the example of communal violence bill about to come, Places of Worship Act. These are the things that are hurting only the Hindus. Now, people have accosted me on airports and stations and said, sir, Hindus are now 9th class citizens. Sir, 10th class citizen. I say, why? They give examples. Now, for example, there is a law that I quote Vishnu has given, bigamy ka. Hindu can be prosecuted for indulging in bigamy, but a Muslim can't.
For complete context, I have no idea what the word means. I know hypergamy, I know bigotry, I don't know what bigamy means.
I'm now worried because you know hypergamy. Polygamy तक तो सुना था. ये नया ले आया यार तुम अपना फायदा करने के लिए hypergamy कर लिया.
ये थोड़ा Gen Z वाला वो आ गया ना, थोड़ा आजकल की
So like
dating standards.
13 wives, 14 wives.
No, hypergamy is just multiple as much as possible. That's generally the idea. Yeah.
Besharam.
Bigamy is just 2, right?
Bigamy is 2.
Okay, I should have used basic math. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so this is, as far as I am aware, these are as watertight as can be. I mean, let's take the example. Very logical example. I ask a question. Are Americans refugee in America?
No, it's their
मतलब नो भी आपने ऐसे emphatically बोला है.
मैं क्यों उनके ही हक के लिए लड़ रहा हूँ जैसे मैं.
Are Germans refugees in Germany?
No.
Right. Why are 7 lakh Kashmiri Hindus refugees in India?
But what is the definition of a refugee? क्योंकि
driven away from their land.
But displaced still in the mainland.
Displaced, yes. I mean, is that not, that qualifies legally as a refugee?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. कि अगर आप अपनी state से ही displaced हो जाओ आप फिर भी refugee होते हो, even though you live in the national boundary.
Yeah, you've been ethnically cleansed. You've been exiled. You can't go back to your own land. You're refugees. 7 lakh people are refugees in India. Valley was their land. Do you see 7 lakh Kashmiri Hindus suddenly in Valley? Tell me. Answer is yes or no. Answer is no, right? It's not for nothing that the valley has become 98%, 99% Muslim, because Hindus were driven out. Now, is that not discrimination only against Hindus? It is. So, likewise, you see so many other things. You see judgments that are. So there you can say there is a judgment that goes against Muslims, right? But you tell me a judgment. You tell me a judgment that goes against Muslims. एक जो थी, जो कि actually legally, morally or ethically, it was going for Muslims. Shah Bano judgment. It was for the poor widow. The poor widow went, knocked at the gates of the court to give her 25 rupees alimony. Okay?
So for context, alimony typically is not allowed in an Islamic marriage. Is that what you're saying?
So there is I forget the exact definition of the word. It escapes me, but I put it in the book.
Okay.
And when the Supreme Court said that Shah Bano deserves to be given this alimony, you saw what happened. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board objected to it because there is a Quranic dictum, right? I'll come to why everything else other than the Quranic dictums can be touched upon, can be overturned, but not Quranic dictum. You can't do it, right? You are forbidden to do it. Reform is impossible, right? एक अभी थे वसीम जी थे, उन्होंने कहा था 23 वर्सेस हटाओ कुरान से, आपको पता होगा. वो अब जितेंद्र है.
He had to convert.
इतना उन पे वो हुआ, वो अब जितेंद्र जी बन गए. तो ये सिचुएशन है. तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि डायरेक्टेड द हस्बैंड टू गिव एलिमनी. AI, All India Muslim Personal Law Board, said this goes against the Muslim Quranic tenets, and the Rajiv Gandhi government overturned the Supreme Court judgment, right? So here was something that morally and ethically was pro-Muslim, but AI, Muslim, All India Muslim said it is against Muslim, right? So it was overturned. So the question I'm saying was that there was something that the Muslim majority of the Muslims, or you can say quote unquote majority, or I don't know how many Muslims follow AIPMB, but it's supposed to be a board that looks after the interests of Muslims, has put it that way.
Sure.
Till such time it has been abrogated, right? At least they say so. It worked. It said this is anti-Muslim, right? Supreme Court judgment. And that was removed. You tell me any other judgment that goes against Muslims, their religion, that has been promulgated, any act, any law that has been done in India. And I will be happy to correct it.
अब मैं यहाँ पे, आप मेरे चित्रे बना दो, इससे पहले मैं ये ज़रूर कहना चाहता हूँ कि कोई साधारण व्यक्ति ज़रूर बोलेगा पर CAA NRC,
उस पे वो अलग ही डिस्कशन है. वो एक तो इंडियन मुस्लिम्स के ऊपर है ही नहीं.
ओके.
और दूसरा है वो एक एमनेस्टी है. 2014 से पहले, नाउ आई हैव टू रिमेंबर समथिंग दैट आई हैड प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर 3 years ago, 4 years ago, जब CA आया था. इट्स अनदर मैटर दैट दिस गवर्नमेंट इज कावर्डली एंड हैज़ आस्क्ड फॉर 9th extension टू मेक CA एज एन एक्ट. मतलब ये अभी तक इन्होंने एक्ट नहीं बनाया इसका, बाय द वे. वो अलग बात है, ये डर गए हैं जो भी हुआ है. बट दैट डिड नॉट अफेक्ट द इंडियन मुस्लिम्स एट ऑल. एंड आई हैड 7 reasons why it was a necessity. One of the debating points also was that Congress and Communist CPIM had passed resolutions where they demanded citizenship for Bangladeshi minorities.
So
now you tell me, are Bangladeshi minorities Muslims?
I'm not sure.
They're not.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah, they're not.
Right?
They're not.
Bangladeshi
Yeah.
minorities are
Yeah.
Hindus, Christians, Muslim, whatever. So Congress demanded citizenship for them,
Yeah.
which is what Modi granted in the end,
Yeah.
right? For minorities there, you are granting citizenship.
क्या आप यहाँ पे आ सकते हो?
आप आ सकते हो यहाँ पे. वही चीज़ कांग्रेस ने डिमांड करी थी. अब जब मोदी ने वो दी, तब पीछे पड़ गए कि यार CA नहीं. बट वो अलग बात है. टेक्निकली इट्स एन एमनेस्टी. 2014 से पहले जितने लोग थे वो प्रोसेस में थे. लाइक देयर डिटेल्स हियर, बट इट डिड नॉट अफेक्ट द इंडियन मुस्लिम्स हियर. Where it did affect, I also mentioned it. Where it affects, where is कि आप जब NRC कराओगे या पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर कराओगे, उसमें आपको, आप जब प्रूफ मांगोगे, बहुत सारे लोगों के पास वो प्रूफ नहीं है, राइट? कि आप इंडियन सिटीजन हो कि नहीं हो, यहाँ पे इंडिया में भी प्रूफ नहीं है, हिंदूज के पास नहीं है, मुस्लिम्स के पास नहीं है, तो मुस्लिम्स को ये एक प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है। उसलिए मैंने कहा था कि आप ये एक डेडलाइन बनाओ CAA के लिए कि 2014 से पहले जितने आ गए हैं वो जो आ गए, दैट इज द डेडलाइन, राइट? बारिंग दैट, I don't see how this was discriminatory against Muslims at all. CAA per se was not discriminatory at all. I had my objection to CAA, which is that all those discriminated against in Islam should be given recourse or refugee status in India. For example, Ahmadiyas, वो मेरा personal view था कि Ahmadiyas are not considered Muslims at all, by the way. You know, even you have Owaisi, people like Owaisi who don't consider, and there are millions of Ahmadiyas. It's a sect of Islam. You must be knowing about that.
I do not.
Okay,
I only know a few, but
right.
not this one.
So
yeah.
Shias are discriminated against. ये तो आपको पता होगा.
Yes.
Shia तो
And
फिर
some
भी
Sufis, some Ismailis.
they are discriminated against.
Yeah.
Sufi shrines पे Islam prohibits, Quran prohibits worshipping a Sufi shrine by.
Yeah, it's considered pagan. Yeah.
Right. So all those things are there. That is why there are bomb blasts and Shias are discriminated. वो अलग बात है. लेकिन Ahmadiyas are not even given the status of being Muslims. Asaduddin Owaisi doesn't consider Ahmadiyas, Indian Ahmadiyas as Muslims. Right? तो मेरा वो था कि यार जो आप इस्लाम डिस्क्रिमिनेट कर रहे हैं वो सारे जो डिस्क्रिमिनेट हो रहे हैं वो उनको आप स्टेटस दो. लेकिन उसमें अब जैसे आप कह रहे हो कि जो भी जो द पीपल हु आर अगेंस्ट CAA उनका ये था कि जो भी डिस्क्रिमिनेट हो रहा है उसको आप स्टेटस दो. तो भैया करोड़ों शियाज भी तो डिस्क्रिमिनेट हो रहे हैं पाकिस्तान में. शुड इंडिया ओपन इट्स डोर्स टू, ऐसा थोड़ी ना है कि जो डिस्क्रिमिनेट हो रहा है, अब आप इन इस्लाम यू आर नॉट डिस्क्रिमिनेटेड अगेंस्ट. इफ somebody thinks you should be discriminated against, why should India be a refuge to that? I mean, suddenly tens of millions of Shias should find a home here because you feel they have been discriminated. I think that doesn't make sense, right? What is legally being discriminated against in Islam is something that my personal opinion was should be given a status. But barring that, how is CAA discriminatory against Indian Muslims? So that was wrong. That's my
Got it.
Yeah.
I have to say, Mr. Ranganathan, you are so thorough with your facts. I have so little to say, despite doing so much research on all of these topics. But that is a testament to your wit and the way you arm yourself with your scientific method, all of that. मतलब मेरी इंग्लिश भी आधी पढ़ रही है, मैं आपको आपके कॉम्प्लीमेंट करना. मैं इससे एक डिफरेंट वो लेता हूँ. मैंने ना आपके ट्विटर पे एक पिन ट्वीट देखी थी, अब शायद हट गई है. You talked about Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes.
Right? And I enjoyed it because, so, context, grow up as a kid, see Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi throughout your history books. Okay, start revering this man, start celebrating 2nd October. ये सब चलता रहता है और आप सोचते हो कि भाई हमारे नोट पे भी है, बहुत बढ़िया है, जो भी कुछ है. Father of the nation. You study his great acts, his whole biography, all of that. Then you grow up and images of him circulate on the internet. और ऐसे बोलते हैं कि इसमें कमियां हैं कुछ ना कुछ, right? And you start, maybe pinpointing holes in like this supposed father of the nation, right? And then your pin tweet said, Ambedkar is quoted as saying कि everyone thinks, I'm badly paraphrasing, that everyone thinks that Gandhi is X, but he's actually Y, as in like he showed his real fangs to me.
Absolutely.
Now, like many...
If you love India, you would dislike Gandhi. That is what Ambedkar said.
Really?
Yeah.
So I would what is it that he did that was so bad, and how have his, let's just say, misgivings been washed away?
Right. So I was exactly like so many other things we've discussed. I was exactly in the same boat.
I feel like मेरे को जो Matrix को वो red pill देते हैं ना, वो उसकी जिंदगी बदल जाती है.
नहीं ऐसा नहीं है. But I might look younger than you, but I'm elder than you.
अच्छा.
वो देखो दोनों बदमाश हैं. But so I'm a child of the 80s, 70s in fact. तो हमें तो ज़्यादा venerate किया हमने महात्मा गांधी. हमारे लिए तो महात्मा गांधी थे हर जगह. तो I used to revere him much more than you did. Everyone did. In fact, it's not that I was looking around for things to find faults with Gandhi. Absolutely not. There weren't any visible faults either that I could find or were shown to me. And that was pre-internet, वो अलग बात है. But anyway, so मेरा तो ज़्यादा था, मेरा तो वर्शिप, जब बच्चा था तो वर्शिप था, बट देन एज वन ग्रोज ओल्डर वन स्टॉप्स वर्शिपिंग पीपल, वन लुक्स एट facts and this and that, but that's another matter. So I was in the same boat. Then I started to read the truth about Gandhi. And always the best source to go when you want to know the truth is always the first-hand account. And there I was quite blessed because Gandhi, there are 100 volumes of Gandhi's writings, right? When I started reading, I have not read all 100 of them, but I've read a lot of them. And when I read a lot of his views, पहले तो मुझे थोड़ा खटका, मुझे लगा कि यार this man is so sure of himself, मतलब हर चीज़ जो कहता है यही होनी चाहिए, नहीं होगी तो मैं आमरण अनशन पे जा रहा हूँ, that's is like a kind of almost a childish
sissy fit.
Yes, I mean he just throws a fit, and he knows he's got people in his hand, in his pocket, or whatever lungi might have. Dhoti might have. Right. So the question was, when I read, you're looking very suspiciously at the camera thinking,
No, I'm just thinking,
should I delete this or should I not?
No, not at all. Nothing is going to be deleted,
Yeah,
don't
but,
worry. Yeah.
by the way, if you criticize Gandhi, you can be put behind bars. There's Supreme Court ruling. But anyway.
अब तो बहुत देर हो चुकी है.
Yeah, अब बहुत देर हो
I
चुकी
already
है.
signed, I already shook
I
hands
know.
with the
It's too late now.
blue tide devil, so it's too
दोनों
late.
साथ जाएंगे.
Done है.
But then I read, and I read about Gandhi, and I thought, look, this guy, far from being a Mahatma, is just ridiculous. This is teetering on pure and utter madness, diabolical stuff he wants others to do. He's a hypocrite par excellence. He's a casteist par excellence. He's a racist par. मतलब
उदाहरण क्या?
Okay, so and I have given a few उदाहरण.
Sure.
मेरा अभी था जिसमें मैं, in fact, Congress wanted an FIR to be filed against me for the things I said. गीता प्रेस को जब गांधी प्राइज दिया ना, मैंने कहा वो तो बाद में बात है, गांधी प्राइज ही क्यों बनाया तुम लोगों ने, उस पर मैंने एग्जाम्पल दिए थे. So the kind of, when he was in South Africa and even away, little bit away from there, the kind of things he said against the blacks there, I mean, in today's world, you would be arrested for it.
Really?
Oh my God, it's just absolutely crazy thing.
And this is a man, unifying the country. But was it said in his youthful days when the national attention wasn't on him?
अच्छा, youthful क्या? Define youthful. I mean, are
मतलब
you in your senses? You are adult, right?
हाँ.
ठीक है? He was older than us.
Okay.
Older than you when he said this. तो अब वो क्या कहोगे? 25 साल का भी बच्चा था, मतलब उसको, कई लोग ऐसे कहते हैं कि वो यूथ की एक्सूबरेंस. भाई डिफाइन कर दो यूथ क्या है.
हाँ, जैसे जस्टिन ट्रूडो ने ब्लैक फेस कर दिया था एक बार.
हाँ, अब वो ठीक है, अब आप youthful, मतलब it's a very stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? But he apologized for it.
Okay.
Right? Did Gandhi ever apologize for any of the things he said? No, he didn't.
His myth grew stronger and stronger as time went on.
Plus, I mean, so he was rank racist. I mean, he was imploring the white man to not, please don't bracket us with blacks. Why the hell are you doing it? They are this, they are dirty, they are filthy, I mean, the kind of things he said was just, will shock you today, right?
And this is all public knowledge, by the way.
All public knowledge.
Where can people find this if they want to read?
Everywhere. Start with Gandhi's 100 volumes.
He himself has professed his own views.
Yes.
In his own writing.
Yes.
And he thought he would never be caught.
No, actually, okay. So that's one thing I still admire about Gandhi.
Okay.
That he was an open book. There is something to be admired about anyone, right? And this is the one thing. So I admired 100 things about Gandhi years ago. Now I'm down to just one. And I think this will remain so. Unless you are absolutely rank mad and potty, you would not want your deepest inner secrets to be revealed publicly, right? That's a normal human thing to do. All of us have secrets, right? If I have 10 secrets, you probably have 100 secrets. That's another matter. हंस रहे हो, देख रहे हो, but है.
आप बहाने से ही मेरे को ऐसे कटघरे में खड़ा कर देते हो एकदम. मैं ये देख रहा हूँ मैं.
आपकी अदालत, आपका पॉडकास्ट हो रहा है यहाँ पे. But so that's one thing that I really admire about Gandhi. Whatever you may say about it, I mean, I have said most things about him, but I admire this. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. I would cringe at the things he would make public about himself. Starting with the fact that he slept naked with his grandnieces. And he wrote about it. And Raja ji said, Gandhi ji, वो सब ठीक है, आपको जो करना है, लेकिन please public मत करो. ये क्या कर रहे हो आप? गांधी जी ने कहा मैं पब्लिक ही नहीं करूंगा, मैं लिखूंगा भी इनके बारे में. And he wrote about it. So barring that,
yeah,
I don't admire a single thing about Gandhi, or let's put it this way, single तो बहुत ही कम चीज़ है. But that I admire. The guy was, as I call, an impossible diamond. What more can I say? Except to say that Gandhi shamefully, most of his adult life, early adult life, he believed in caste system. He did. Then he kind of built a nuance in it. But that nuance was even more shameful because he then started believing in hereditary Varna system. Now, Varna is all right because Varna doesn't believe in caste system. There are four things that you can do, occupations, and you can jump from one occupation to another. That is allowed. So Varna is not discriminatory. Varna Vyavastha, right? Gandhi said you have to be. He believed in hereditary. So he said a Shudra. These are his words. A Shudra can learn the Vedas, but he cannot earn his livelihood out of it. Yes, Gandhi has said this. आपकी आईब्रोज ऊपर हो रही हैं. अभी आप अंबेडकर को जो सुनेंगे, जो उन्होंने कहा है गांधी के बारे में, जो सुना है, तो मतलब क्या क्या रोंगटे आपके खड़े हो जाएंगे. So नंबर 2 वो हो गया. Number 3, in the thick of the Naokhali riots, in the pre-partition riots, when Gandhi was traveling alone or with his grandniece Manu and Abha from village to village, he reached a place in Bengal called Naokhali, right? And he used to have his pumice stone. Everyone has their fetishes. He had his pumice stone, just say Rab used to take bath and while and he accused Manu, who was not even 16, of having misplaced it. He ordered Manu to travel 30 miles in riot-torn Naokhali to get that pumice stone. रात को बेचारी जंगलों से गुजरते हुए राइट्स हो रहे थे. 16 साल की बच्ची गांधी जी का प्यूमिस स्टोन लेने गई. किसी गांव में भूल गए थे वो लोग. लेके वापस आई, रोते हुए उसने गांधी के मुंह पे मारा, ये लो अपना प्यूमिस स्टोन. और गांधी ने कहा हंसते हुए कि इट वुड हैव बीन फनी हैड यू बीन सेक्सुअली असॉल्टेड और असॉल्टेड बाय अ राइटर. ये मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, ये पता है किसने कहा है? गांधी के ग्रैंडसन ने, राजमोहन गांधी ने, जो किताब लिखी.
Who was witness to this?
No, because Gandhi himself narrated this, and Rajmohan Gandhi has written about this in his book Gandhi the Empire.
So they don't whitewash their ancestor at all.
Well, he's done a lot of whitewashing, but this, I don't know, somehow it escaped whitewashing. Now, this is what Gandhi did. You want to call him a Mahatma? By all means, call him a Mahatma. यार मुझसे मत बोलो. And that is the smallest of errors that he has committed. क्या क्या गिनाऊं मैं आपको?
I think हम जब छोटे होते हैं ना, हम बहुत 2D में 4 लाइन की हिस्ट्री पढ़ के उसको परपेचुएट करके मान लेते हैं ये चीज़ें. But if you delve deep into the histories of people like the way they are, I don't think you would call anyone pious or leader or like saintly.
So, and you know, it's not just Gandhi. You see, I don't like the grey. I'm a man of black and white. I've said this. Maybe that's a deformity. You can say मेरी गलत चीज़ है मेरी, but मैं हूँ ऐसा. Science is black and white. Problem with grey is that you find out someone is hypocritical and you quickly remove, you whitewash. उसकी सिर्फ आपको अच्छाइयाँ दिखती हैं.
We love to save face in this country.
बुराइयाँ आप धीरे धीरे भूल जाते हो. अब जैसे माओ है, हम गांधी की अभी सच्चाई बता रहे हैं, लोग कहें बुराइयाँ हैं, जो भी हैं. Mao killed 63 million of his own people. 63 million. He is on the currency notes. Is he not?
Yes.
Now, is that not grey? ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? आप कोई हिस्ट्री में आप मुझे आदमी बता दो जिसने 63 मिलियन अपने आदमियों को मारा हो, ओके, और जो कह रहा है कि डेड बॉडीज जो है वो फर्टिलाइजर की तरह यूज करो, जिसने कहा है डू अनटू अदर्स दैट यू वुड नेवर डू अनटू यू. दीज आर माउस कोट्स. ठीक है, वो आदमी करेंसी नोट्स पे है. इससे ज्यादा ग्रे क्या हो सकता है? सो देयर आर सो बट आई डोंट लाइक इट. आई एम नॉट दैट पर्सन. But I'm not preventing others from being grey. That's another matter. If somebody wants to call Gandhi Mahatma, yeah, be my guest. But please, you know.
Does your head not feel heavy with the burden of all of this information?
No, actually, it kind of cleanses me. Information tells me where I stand, where I ought to stand. Okay? There is always the compass. And people have denigrated this phrase called moral compass. कई जर्नलिस्ट हैं जो यूज करते हैं moral compass. सबसे ज़्यादा immoral जर्नलिस्ट वही हैं. But there is something which I called scientific compass. जो कि ये आपको, you know, science doesn't thrust morality upon you, ethics upon you, right?
Sure.
Science puts everything on the table. जैसे कहते हैं हम साइंस की तरफ से हैं, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि मैं साइंटिफिक प्रिंसिपल्स को आगे लेके जो बिलीवर है मैं उसको उसकी पिटाई करूंगा कि तुम क्यों नहीं बिलीव कर रहे, या मैं ऐसी किताब लिख दूंगा जिसमें कहा है कि उनको मौत के घाट उतारो जो बिलीव कर रहे हैं,
या फिर आप लोगों से फोर्सफुली इक्वल टू MC स्क्वायर गवाओ,
कुछ भी करो यार, मतलब साइंस में बिलीव करो, क्यों?
हाँ
यू पुट इट ऑन द टेबल, यू लीव इट टू द अदर पर्सन। क्योंकि जब आप ऐसा करते हो और आदमी साइंस को उठाता है, जब कन्वर्ट बनता है ना, तो वो अपने दिल से बन रहा है कन्वर्ट, फोर्सफुली नहीं कर रहा। और तभी ना आई एम नॉट अगेंस्ट कन्वर्जन्स, मैंने ये ओपनली कह रखा है। ये तो थोड़ा सा 5% मैं भी महात्मा गांधी की तरह हूँ, ओपन किताब हूँ मैं, ये सब पहली बार नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, क्योंकि डांट बहुत बार पहले पड़ चुकी है। मैंने कहा इफ़ आई वॉन्ट पीपल टू हियर अबाउट साइंस एंड देन बिलीवर्स टू कन्वर्ट टू और लीव द होल्ड ऑफ रिलीजन एंड कम टू एथिज्म, why would I object to somebody who wants to become a believer, right? I am against forceful and illegal conversion. Coercion से ये दे दिया, खिला दिया, पिला दिया, वो I am against.
You can separate your emotions from all of this.
That is the prerequisite. That is the prerequisite. मतलब कल को अगर मैं कहूँ कि कोल्ड फ्यूजन हुआ है, जो कि नहीं हुआ, बिलीव करो कि हुआ है, नहीं करोगे तो मारूंगा आपको, ऐसा कभी देखा है साइंटिस्ट को करते हुए?
नहीं। तभी उनको, हाँ, लेकिन मैंने एक कॉमेडियन का फनी वो देखा था कि साइंटिस्ट सारी बातें डिनाई कर लेते, लेकिन बिग बैंग पे सारे उनका वो रिलीजियस ओरिजिन स्टोरी है।
नहीं, अच्छा, उस पर भी अब अलग वो है कि बिग बैंग, आप जो फ्रेज जो बिग बैंग जिसने दिया, इट्स एन अमेजिंग स्टोरी। द फ्रेज इटसेल्फ वाज कॉइन्ड बाय समवन हु बिलीव्ड इन स्टेडी स्टेट थ्योरी।
आई डोंट नो व्हाट दैट इज।
Yeah. So the opposite of Big Bang theory, which is the universe was created with a Big Bang, the opposite was called the steady state theory, that it has always existed. The universe is always in a steady state. And that was given by Hoyle, if I'm not mistaken, Cambridge scientist. And in a radio broadcast, he coined the phrase Big Bang. But he did not believe in Big Bang, he believed in steady state theory, that universe has always existed. Now, something that always exists is very jarring for a scientist,
Right.
Scientists want to know the origin. कि यार ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है कि ये था, मान लो कि था, अरे क्यों मान लो यार, मतलब कहाँ से आया ये चीज, कहाँ, टेबल कहाँ से आया, माइक कहाँ से आया, हम कहाँ से आए? सो साइंटिस्ट, दैट्स लाइक द प्री रेक्विजिट, द डेफिनेशन ऑफ बीइंग साइंस इज बीइंग क्यूरियस, दैट्स ऑल देयर इज, राइट? सो बिग बैंग, व्हेन इट केम in the 50s, the theory came. Yes, you could say that people believe in Big Bang, people don't believe in Big Bang. There are two fractions, which is science में हमेशा होता है। साइंटिस्ट जब लड़ते हैं ना तो बहुत प्यार से लड़ते हैं, मतलब ऐसे नहीं लड़ते कि यार हाय हाय तुमने कुछ गलत कह दिया, you will be skewered in hell for it, नहीं। Theories are overturned all the time.
ज़्यादा अपने लैब का दरवाजा बंद कर देंगे, आप नहीं आ सकते इसमें।
या साइंटिस्ट रिट्रैक्ट कर लेगा, वो भी, it happens a lot of time यार। A Nobel laureate who was given Nobel Prize 3 years ago on directed evolution, she retracted her paper and people were praising her. She said, why shouldn't I? If something is wrong, I'm the first one to believe I'm wrong. I
Right.
apologize and I retract it. कभी किसी रिलीजन वाले को देखा है कि यार ऐसा है कि ये हुआ नहीं था, भगवान ने 6 दिन में बनाया नहीं था, इसको ना हटा दो, कभी सुना है ऐसा? So there is a difference.
Too much at stake there, no?
I don't know. It's not too much at stake. It is the embarrassment of believing that what I believe is not right, right? The people are embarrassed by it. And when you're embarrassed by it and you continue with that, either you leave that fold, right? But when you don't leave that fold, you become very militant. You want others to be in that fold. Because आपको लगता है कि यार 8 बिलियन लोग हैं, उसमें 2 बिलियन ये बिलीव कर रहे हैं। अगर 8 बिलियन बिलीव करने लग जाए ना,
मजा आ
तो
जाएगा।
मन को बड़ी शांति मिलेगी यार, कोई मुझ पे फिंगर नहीं उठाएगा, बड़ी खुशी मिलेगी। तो ये चक्कर है। अब बिग बैंग में ये है, अब मेरा लेजिटिमेट सवाल है। सो देयर हैव बीन 13 amazing experiments that have been done. 10 of them have been given Nobel Prizes, microwave radiation, that have more or less proven that Big Bang did happen. The biggest amongst them was, ironically, didn't get the Nobel Prize, Hubble redshift, where you basically take back, because you see the redshift among stars, you see that something would have come out from something. So you go back, keep going back, and people have gone back 13.5 billion years. Now with IR telescope, people can see 300 million years or maybe even less than that after universe was created. But then एक ना एक साइंटिस्ट आपको हमेशा मिलेगा, वो बदमाश जैसे होता है ना, डेटॉल में एक वर्म बच जाता है
99.99
बिग बैंग से पहले क्या था,
हाँ
वो सवाल पूछ लेगा. तो सब कहते हैं यार ये मत पूछ और सब गड़बड़ कर दी तूने, अब इसका आंसर कहाँ से लाऊं. पर साइंटिस्ट उसका भी आंसर ढूंढ रहे हैं. There is a scientist called Alexander Vilenkin. He has given the BGV theorem. One of the B or G or V, I forget, is an Indian. I think V Venkatesh or B, I forget, BGV theorem. That kind of proposes what happened before Big Bang, that Big Bang happened. बहरहाल Big Bang के happening के बाद people have really figured out. But मैं उसलिए भगवान में विश्वास नहीं करता कि Big Bang हुआ है. मतलब that's partly true. मैं इसलिए विश्वास करता हूँ कि आप लोगों ने, रिलीजियस लोगों ने ये कहा है कि भगवान ने ये 6 दिन में सब क्रिएट किया. एब्राहमिक फेज, गॉड क्रिएटेड अर्थ इन 6 days and he rested on the 7th and all that. Now there is sufficient great proof in science, in biology, through the amazing experiments by Stanley Miller, Jacques Shostak, Stemmer, so many others, that have shown that Earth was not created in 6 days. We are a product completely of chance and how elements got together and we got small building blocks of life. From there we got RNA, there is RNA world, then came DNA, then came protein. So there is a logical explanation of how we came into being. The illogical one, that I believe illogical, is that God created it. यार ये सब छोड़ो, क्यों इसमें पड़े हो ढूंढने का. भगवान ने क्या कह दो ना, मान जाओ ना. साइंटिस्ट, ये कीड़ा होता है साइंटिस्ट, मानता नहीं.
और ब्यूटी ऑफ द बिलीवर ये है कि वो आप कुछ भी बोलोगे मैं तो मानता हूँ.
मैं मानता हूँ. अब मैं I'm not against that यार. मैं क्योंकि there's no point fighting that.
Yeah, it's an endless debate that has like divided the world.
Debate, आपको believe करना. I'm not a militant atheist.
I wanted to ask you something earlier. You said कि एक टाइम पे जो बंदा था उसका नाम भूल गया मैं, Crooks Media. That's the guy? Media Crooks, right?
Yes.
So you come from an era of blogging. आपके blogs में I went all the way back till 2012, right?
Right.
Now in the era of dissemination that is happening over
Audio-visual.
Twitter, X, audio-visual, chaotic, right? Like you consume and infer information, then subconsciously becomes your beliefs through a variety of mediums, right? Where do you think the truth is still present in some mediums? में corruption भी हो रही है. आप खुद ही बोल रहे थे कि you can't trust media organizations the way you could, right? So you have independent bloggers telling the truth on small forums, just like you. Nowadays ऐसा लोग बोलते हैं कि भाई podcasting is such का एक forum है. Although that's also like debatable as time goes on, right? So where do you, because you have this temperament, find the truth?
So you're right about one thing, that there is no one mine where you would find every truth, right? Be it on journalism, be it on politics, be it on any sports or anything you will. You have to. You're absolutely right. You have to search for it. You have to go places. You will find it on Twitter. You will find it in a blog. You will find it in a video. You will find it on YouTube. So this is like it's almost like a microcosm of how you go about, about your daily lives. You collect something from here, from there, from there. So there is no one center. There is no one center, and I think that's beautiful. That's beautiful because that's completely democratic, right? 20 years ago, the real power in journalism was held by the people who were editors of newspapers. They would write editorials and you would feel, what the hell, what the crap has this guy written? I'm sorry, I've used this. You can beep it out.
नहीं कोई दिक्कत नहीं.
Crap is allowed.
बहुत गंदी गंदी गालियाँ देते हैं इस पे.
माँ बहन की भी.
हाँ.
अच्छा.
आप खुद ही तो फ्री स्पीच एब्सोल्यूटिस्ट हो, तो फिर आप मुझे कैसे कह सकते हैं?
Point. Good point. So there all you could do after having read that op-ed would fling the newspaper against the wall. और गुस्सा ये वो करना, Now you have a platform. You can go to Twitter. You can, objectively, you can, without, taking the recourse of selectivity, with data, you can prove that guy completely wrong. You can demolish. Which is what Media Crooks was the first one who started doing it through his blogs. Then so many people caught on, right? In our own small way, each one of us through Twitter started doing it. Then now, of course, there is a whole army of people who are doing it. But अब वही है ना, evolution होता है, वो forward आपको लगता है कि फॉरवर्ड जा रहा है, लेकिन रिग्रेस भी होता है, वो भी एवोल्यूशन होता है. तो इसमें जो कई फैक्ट चेकर्स आ गए हैं, अपने आप को फैक्ट चेकर अराउंड कर लिया, they are the most biased entities you can think of.
You really believe that?
Of course, so many of them. There are good fact checkers, like everything in life. There are good people, there are bad people. Good journalists, bad journalists, right? The only difference now from 20 years ago is that bad people are getting exposed. That is the difference. There are very few good journalists then there were. Now also there are very few good journalists. There were a lot of bad journalists then. There are a lot of bad journalists now. Those bad journalists there lived their life king size.
They could hold on to their job for long.
Of course, for decades. Now they can't. I mean, they can. They become vassals or they become,
And it's
servants
obvious to the public now.
Totally obvious. Obvious. That's the difference. And that's the beauty. And, people criticize Elon Musk. I also criticize him. He is not really a free speech absolutist as he purports himself to be. That's another matter. But he has further democratized Twitter. Twitter was as accepted by, I've even forgotten that guy who was Jack.
Jack
Accepted, that Twitter has a left-wing bias.
Yeah.
And you saw through Twitter files how vicious that bias was.
I forget the woman's name, just legal counsel who
V se naam tha.
Yeah, I'm skipping my mind.
Yeah. What's in a name? Jackfruit smells the same. Sorry, was it rose or jackfruit? I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah.
But now, in this case, anybody can say anything and that is what platform is. यार आप खुद बताओ, आप रेलवे स्टेशन जाते हो, आप ये कहोगे कि यार प्लेटफॉर्म 1 पे सिर्फ राजधानी और वंदे भारत आएगी, कालका एक्सप्रेस नहीं आएगी. Do you say that?
No.
If you say that, you'll say bloody, discriminatory guy, गरीब लोगों का वहाँ पे, वंदे भारत का यहाँ पे. So like that, Twitter is a platform. Who am I to judge whether something is, palatable or something is hate speech or something is not? What is hate speech? I was blocked by Twitter for 2 weeks for quoting a verse, Quranic verse. And they said, if you delete that tweet, you can come back. I said, bloody, I'll sue your pants off. You tell me, why is a Quranic verse a hate speech? तो उनकी थोड़ी फटी, उन्होंने कहा अगर हम ये कह देते हैं तो हम तो गए काम से. So they reinstated me. But for 2 weeks, they felt that a verse was hate speech. Now, is that right or is that wrong? You see what I mean? Who is to say what is right, who is wrong, what is wrong? Who is to say what is hate speech, yeah?
What do you think is the way forward? Like, particularly for people watching this and listening to this, it is obvious to me that you are courageous when you speak these things, right? And you air your views like it's no one's business except yours, right? मुझे लगता है बहुत सारे लोगों के मन में ऐसी ही महत्वाकांक्षाएं होती हैं कि वो भी ऐसे अपने खुल के बात करें. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's a lack of maybe it's a lack of articulation, maybe it's they don't know, they don't feel free enough to speak their mind. Simply like a self-helpy kind of question, like how can people become more fearless in speaking their truths in a country which is supposedly बाहर से तो ऐसा माहौल है कि भाई कुछ गलत मत बोलो, कुछ बुरा हो जाएगा आपके साथ.
So, okay, let me answer it in 2 parts.
Okay.
One is the training is of a scientist. The pedigree is of being the son of 2 scientists. So that helps, I would say, because in science, the only thing that you mustn't ever do is to not tell the truth, right? Because then there's no point living. मतलब आप फिर क्यों जी रहे हो यार? अगर आपको साइंस में भी आपको झूठ बोलना है, आपसे कुछ गलती हो गई inadvertently, unknowingly, you accept your mistake, you say I apologize for this did not happen, you retract, whatever, fine. But knowingly you make a you basically propagate a lie. That should not happen in science. So that's the training. Number 2, I disagree with your statement. I am also a coward. And I'll explain to you why. Because this is a place in India where you cannot be as courageous as you should be. This is a country for cowards, and I'm one of the cowards. I may say I'm a free speech absolutist, but I'm a coward. I cannot say so many things for fear of people beheading me, for fear of the state coming after me. Okay, I'm not worried about the state coming after me because there is at least some legal recourse. I mean, they will torture me, they will do all sorts of things, but at least there is some legal recourse at the end. There is no legal recourse for somebody who wants to decapitate you, behead you, right? So I'm a coward. The reason for that is that for those who didn't even say anything that was hateful, who quoted a verse, I'm talking of Nupur, right? 10 people who just said, we stand with Nupur. Few of them have been beheaded.
Are you for real?
Yes. Kanhaiya Lal, the tailor who was beheaded live on camera, all he said was, he didn't say what Nupur said is right or wrong. By the way, she quoted the Islamic scriptures, right? Till now, all those so-called fact checkers have been told so many times, including by me, if you are a fact checker worth your salt, right? Tell me if what Nupur said is right or wrong. What she said is derived from the hadiths. How is that wrong? If that is hate speech, then you ban the hadiths. That has not happened. So people are scared. I am a coward, yeah. I'm being very honest about it. Because I know people who said what was in their mind, right or wrong. Okay, so one thing. The hallmark of free speech is you shouldn't be bothered whether what you're saying is logical or rational or makes sense or not. Say whatever comes to your mind. You may disagree or agree with it. Now, what Kamlesh Tiwari said, right? I may agree or disagree with it. Right or wrong. He said something that he was beheaded for. The state had arrested him. State did not back him. Okay? You've seen what happened to Charlie Hebdo journalists. 12 of them were killed, mercilessly killed, some of them beheaded. And there were people in India, journalists in India, who supported that. Who said, good, this has happened. Exalted, celebrated journalists. So, when the state doesn't back you, then your bravery becomes bravado. So, I am a coward. Now, there are ranges of coward. I will give you that I am not afraid of a lot of things that many people might be, but I still am a coward. I cannot openly say whatever I want to say. I can't. I've seen people who didn't even say anything. They have been beheaded. It's just bizarre and absurd. There is no line here. It's free for all. State doesn't come to help you at all. What do you do in that sense? Would you be, as I said, your bravery turns to bravado. That's the thing.
Then you would probably think twice. Then one would even think that it's better to shut up.
Yes. Self-censorship. It is happening all the time. And if you think it is happening just in India, you couldn't be more wrong. It is possibly happening more in America because wokeism is coming.
Of course.
You see what is happening in the universities.
I was there for 4 years.
Yeah.
At BU. I had to. उन्होंने $20 million Ibrahim Kendi को दिए anti-racism institute के लिए.
Right.
And it imploded, as I predicted.
Yes. So there, the academics cannot say whatever they want to say because next day they are fired. If they're not fired, they're spat upon by their students. There are video recordings of all these things. You just can't say the sex of a man or a woman. Leave alone talking about Islam, leave alone talking about, all sorts of things. And we haven't even come to the hypocrisy of it. That here you can burn Manusmriti, right? Here you can be celebrated for it. Here you can tear a sitting parliamentarian, or I think a legislator can say, tear Tulsidas's, Ramayana. Tear it. You try and do it with other scriptures, see what happens. So, I'm sorry. I'm not brave at all. The kind of bravery I would want does not exist in India, shamefully does not exist in the Western world. That I would at least hope should exist there. Maybe some places in the Nordic, but even there, wokeism is going very quickly. There somebody wanted to burn something and the Prime Minister came out and said, please don't do it. But that's okay. That's still, But free speech is, I think it is next to right to life, is the most essential thing. We don't realize it right now because we're more preoccupied with a lot of other things like feeding our stomachs. But what after that? What happens after that? What happens after we've got a toilet, we've got health insurance, we've got gas cylinders, we've got a vehicle, we've got a house, we've got a roof under our heads, we've got our kids go to schools. What happens after all that? You got to think. Then you will realize when somebody points a finger at you, no, you cannot think that. Tab lagega yaar, ye gadbad ho rahi hai. But by that time, it will be too late. So you talked about the articles that I wrote. I think I started in 2011 writing publicly. One of the first ones I wrote was, in fact, today I would be possibly put behind bars because I wanted the then Chief Justice, to be arrested. I hope nobody goes back and reads that article.
Too late.
Too late. But it was called a Requiem for Galileo. Because somebody asked the Chief Justice, I forget even his name, I think Altama someone, can ideas be punished? And he said, yes, ideas can be punished. I was so appalled by that statement. I wrote a whole article. I said, this is exactly what happened to Galileo, 500 years ago. You're taking us back. Galileo had to apologize for something, that was true. And he was killed for it. And what you're doing, Chief Justice, you're doing exactly that. And there is no end to this. And that's like 12 years ago. Nothing has changed. It's just gone from bad to worse. The only thing that has changed it, that the West America has joined this journey, That's the tragedy.
And on that extremely doomsday tragic note, I wanted to leave it very poetically at what you said, but all things must come to an end.
Absolutely.
Like this conversation. I am blown away by what I heard from you today.
Thank you.
Floored is the right word. Obviously, people can follow you on Anand Ranganathan on Twitter. I believe that's...
So this is A. Ranganathan 72.
Okay.
I lost my badge because I changed my DP
profile picture
to Israeli flag.
It's going to come back.
It's going to come back?
It's going to come back.
Okay.
Yeah. How many days has it been?
It's been a week.
Yeah, it's going to come back.
Yeah. Okay. So.
But considering your past incursions into Twitter, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your time and thank you for allowing us into your CID laboratory. I had fun. I would say I had fun, but more than that, I had my mind blown. I was not aware about these things. And
you're very kind.
And now I think there is reading to do.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Thank you
so much
much
for having me.
Thank you.
Pleasure.